The red dust swirled around Commander Lee's boots as he stepped off the landing ramp. 3 months of space travel had led them to this forgotten world at the edge of known space. The planet looked dead, no atmosphere worth breathing, no signs of life, just endless stretches of crimson rock under a dying orange sun. "Another waste of fuel," muttered Pilot Yoon, adjusting his helmet's air filters. "Control sends us to chase ghost signals from survey drones." Engineer Park wasn't listening. She knelt beside a strange metallic structure jutting from the ground, like a broken tooth. The object was massive, easily 10 meters tall, covered in symbols that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. Most of the team had already dismissed it as natural rock formation, but Park's scanner was picking up something else. "Commander," she called out, her voice crackling through the comm system, "you need to see this." Lee trudged over, his heavy boots crunching on the alien soil. The structure looked ancient, weathered by countless storms. Black scorch marks covered its surface and deep cracks ran along its base. Whatever this thing was, it had been through hell. "Looks dead to me," Lee said, tapping the metal with his gloved hand. The sound echoed strangely, as if the object was hollow inside. Park held up her scanner, frowning at the readings. "That's what I thought too, but look at this." She pointed to a faint blue glow emanating from deep within the cracks. "There's still power in there. Not much, but it's definitely active." Security Officer Kim approached, his weapon ready. "Could be dangerous. We should call it in and let the science teams handle it." "Science teams take months to approve missions," Park replied, running her hands along the smooth surface. "Besides, whatever this is, it's been here for thousands of years. If it wanted to hurt someone, it would have done it already." Lee studied the structure more carefully. Now that Park mentioned it, he could see the faint energy patterns dancing beneath the surface. The symbols weren't random either. They formed complex geometric patterns that reminded him of star charts. "Can you access it?" he asked. Park nodded, pulling out her tools. "I think so. The energy signature is similar to the old Centauri tech we studied in the academy. If I can find the right frequency." She connected her portable generator to a small gap in the structure's base. The moment the power flowed in, everything changed. The structure erupted in brilliant blue light, forcing the team to shield their eyes. The symbols began moving, rotating, and shifting like a living language. Deep within the metal, machinery that had slept for millennia suddenly roared to life. "Park, shut it down!" Lee shouted, but she was already working frantically at her controls. "I can't. It's drawing power from our generator, but it's also pulling energy from somewhere else. The readings are off the charts." The ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. The beacon, for that's clearly what it was, extended itself upward, unfolding, like a mechanical flower. Panels slid open, revealing a complex array of crystalline structures and pulsing lights. Then came the sound. It started as a low hum, barely audible through their helmet speakers. But it grew stronger, more complex, until it became something like music. Not human music, but something beautiful and alien and desperately sad. "It's trying to communicate," whispered Park, staring at her scanner in amazement. "The signal is incredibly sophisticated. It's broadcasting on multiple frequencies, using mathematical progressions I've never seen before." The beacon suddenly focused its energy into a tight beam that shot straight up into the sky. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to ripple, and stars that hadn't been visible moments before began to shine through the planet's thin atmosphere. "It's a navigation system," Lee realized. "It's showing us something." The beam shifted, pointing toward a specific constellation. Data flowed across Park's scanner faster than she could read it. Star charts, coordinates, technical specifications for technologies beyond human understanding. But underneath all the complex information was something simpler, something that made her heart race. "Commander," she said quietly, "this isn't just a beacon. It's a message, and it's addressed to anyone who might find it." The musical tones grew more urgent, more desperate. Images began forming in the light. Alien cities, vast fleets of ships, worlds teeming with life. But then came darker images, Empty space where stars should be, planets torn apart, civilizations reduced to dust. They're trying to warn us, Parky whispered. Something destroyed them. Something that's still out there. The beacon's light suddenly intensified, and new coordinates appeared on Park's scanner. Earth's coordinates. The message was clear. Whatever had destroyed this ancient civilization was heading toward humanity's home world. As the team stood in stunned silence, the beacon's final message played out in their minds, a desperate plea for help from a dying race, transmitted across the galaxy in the hope that someone somewhere would be strong enough to succeed where they had failed. The beacon's light faded, but its warning would echo through space forever. Dr. Kim hadn't slept in 72 hours. Empty. Coffee cups littered her workstation aboard the research vessel Horizon, and her eyes burned from staring at alien symbols that seemed to dance across her screens. The beacon's message was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, layers upon layers of data, compressed into mathematical sequences that hurt to think about. Another breakthrough, she muttered to herself, fingers flying across the holographic interface. The alien language was starting to make sense, but what she was discovering made her wish it didn't. Captain Cho found her there at dawn, slumped over her desk with translation algorithms running in the background. The bridge had been buzzing, with activity since they'd returned from the dead planet, but Kim's lab remained eerily quiet, except for the hum of processing computers. "Doctor, you need rest," Cho said, placing a fresh cup of coffee beside her keyboard. Kim looked up with bloodshot eyes. "Captain, I've cracked it. The message, it's not just a warning. It's a complete historical record." She gestured to the main display where alien text scrolled past in neat columns. This civilization called themselves the Keepers. They were explorers like us, but they'd been traveling the galaxy for over 50 million years. Cho pulled up a chair, studying the translated text. 50 million, that's impossible. Nothing could survive that long. That's what I thought too, until I found this. Kim's fingers danced across the controls, bringing up a three-dimensional star map. Thousands of solar systems appeared as glowing dots connected by streaming lines of data. This is their empire at its peak. Look at the scale, Captain. The map zoomed out, revealing the true scope of the Keeper civilization. They had colonized entire galactic arms, built structures that dwarfed planets, and mastered technologies that could manipulate space and time itself. Their cities floated between stars, powered by controlled black holes. Their ships could cross the galaxy in days. They were gods compared to us, Kim continued, her voice growing quieter. They had technology we can't even dream of, energy shields that could protect entire star systems, weapons that could rearrange matter at the quantum level. They thought they were untouchable. Cho leaned forward, sensing the fear in Kim's voice. What happened to them? Kim's hands trembled as she accessed the next section of data. The star map changed, showing the same galactic region but from a different time period. Where thousands of bright stars had once shone, now there was only empty darkness. They called it the Void, Kim whispered. It appeared at the edge of their territory about 1,000 years ago. At first, they thought it was just another cosmic phenomenon, maybe a rogue black hole or some kind of dark matter anomaly. The display showed the first encounters. Keeper exploration fleets had approached the anomaly with confidence, their massive ships bristling with sensors and weapons. The footage, somehow preserved in the beacon's memory banks, showed what happened. Next, the ships simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not torn apart, they vanished as if they had never been there at all. The void consumed them without trace, growing larger with each meal. It's not a natural phenomenon, Kim continued, pulling up detailed scans that hurt to look at. The void is alive, Captain. It's a predator that feeds on energy, matter, even space itself. The Keepers tried everything. Gravitational weapons, reality disruptors, technologies that could rewrite the laws of physics. Nothing worked. Cho watched in horror as the map showed the void's relentless advance through Keeper space. System after system winked out of existence. Entire sectors of the galaxy became empty voids where nothing could survive. How fast does it move? Cho asked, though he dreaded the answer. Kim pulled up the final calculations. Based on their records, It consumed their entire civilization in less than 50 years. 50 years to destroy an empire that had lasted 50 million. She turned to face the captain directly. But that's not the worst part. The star map changed again, showing present-day galaxy configurations. A red line traced the void's projected path based on the Keeper's final observations. The line pointed directly toward a small, unremarkable yellow star on the galaxy's outer rim, Earth's sun. According to their calculations, the void should reach our solar system in 8 months, Kim said. The Keepers sent out dozens of these warning beacons before they fell, hoping that someone somewhere might find a way to stop what they couldn't. Chu stared at the projection, his mind racing. 8 months to prepare for something that destroyed a civilization millions of years more advanced than us. There's more, Kim said, accessing the beacon's final data packets. The Keepers weren't the first. The message contains references to at least 12 other civilizations that encountered the void. Some were energy beings that existed as pure consciousness. Others were machine intelligences that had transcended physical form. All of them fell. The lab fell silent, except for the humming of computers. Through the viewport, stars twinkled peacefully, unaware that something was coming. For them all. Doctor, Cho said finally, please tell me there's some good news in that message. Kim managed a weak smile. Actually, there is. The Keepers were impressed that we managed to activate their beacon at all. Most species can't even detect it, let alone power it up. She gestured to the scrolling alien text. They seemed to think humans might be different somehow. Different how? I'm still translating that part, but they kept using a word that roughly means impossible or stubborn beyond reason. They seemed to think that might matter. Captain Cho stood up, straightening his uniform. 8 months wasn't much time, but it was what they had. Doctor, I need you to compile everything, every technical specification, every tactical analysis, every scrap of data about this void. If we're going to face something that destroyed gods, we'll need every advantage we can get. As Kim returned to her translations, neither of them noticed the small notation buried deep in the Keeper records, a single phrase that would change everything. Humans, the first species to ask, how do we fight it, instead of, how do we run? Emergency council meeting had been going on for 6 hours, and tensions were running higher than the coffee maker could handle. Representatives from every major spacefaring nation sat around the massive holographic table, their faces grim as they debated humanity's response to the approaching void. The translated Keeper records glowed ominously on the central display, showing the fate of countless civilizations. We need to evacuate immediately, insisted Director Wang from the Mars colonies. Get as many people as possible to the outer rim systems. Maybe we can buy ourselves time. Time for what? Snapped. Admiral Torres, you saw the data. This thing consumed civilizations that could travel between galaxies. Where exactly do you think we can hide? Young Engineer Han sat quietly in the corner, barely 25 years old and completely out of place among the military leaders and senior scientists. She'd only been invited because of her work on the beacon's power systems, but as she listened to the debate, frustration built up inside her chest like steam in a pressure cooker. The Centauri Republic tried running, General Park was saying, gesturing to a section of the Keeper records. They had faster-than-light travel, mobile planets, the works. The void caught them anyway. What about the ethereal collective, suggested Dr. Yoon. They uploaded their consciousness to quantum computers and scattered them across the galaxy. Surely some survived. All consumed, replied Captain Cho grimly. The void doesn't just eat matter and energy, it devours information itself. Those quantum computers might as well have been made of paper. Han couldn't take it anymore. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor with a sound that made everyone turn to look at her. With respect, you're all thinking about this wrong, she said, her voice cutting through the debate like a laser through butter. Admiral Torres raised an eyebrow. Excuse me, Engineer. We're discussing the survival of our species here. Exactly, Han replied, stepping forward to the central display. And all you're talking about is running away or hiding. But look at what we know. She pulled up the Keeper battle records, showing massive fleets engaging the void with weapons that could crack planets. Every single civilization that encountered this thing tried to fight it the same way. with bigger guns, stronger shields, faster ships. Because that's how you fight threats, General Park said impatiently, with superior firepower. Han shook, her head, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. But we're not superior. We're tiny, weak, and primitive compared to the Keepers. If we try to outmuscle the Void, we'll lose just like they did. She paused, looking around the room at the sea of skeptical faces. So let's not try to be stronger. Let's try to be smarter. What are you suggesting? Dr. Kim asked, leaning forward with interest. Han took a deep breath and activated her personal project files. Months of work appeared on the display. Technical diagrams, power calculations, and theoretical frameworks that made several scientists gasp in surprise. The Void consumes energy and matter, right? But what if we gave it something it couldn't? Digest? Han's excitement was growing as she explained her idea. Look at how it attacked the Keeper fleets. It absorbed their energy weapons, turned their own power against them. But what if we fed it something that would make it sick? You want to poison a cosmic entity? Admiral Torres sounded incredulous. Not poison exactly, Han replied, pulling up her core calculations. More like indigestion. See, I've been studying the beacon's power system, and I noticed something weird. Human technology is incredibly inefficient compared to alien tech. Our fusion reactors are clunky, our computers are slow, our whole approach to energy is basically held together with duct tape and hope. Several engineers in the room chuckled despite the gravity of the situation. But that inefficiency might be exactly what we need, Han continued. What if we built something deliberately chaotic, a power source so messy and unpredictable that the Void couldn't process it properly? Captain Cho studied the diagrams with growing interest. You're talking about weaponizing our own technological limitations? Exactly. Han's eyes lit up. Every other species the Void encountered had perfected their technology. Clean energy, precise calculations, everything optimized to mathematical perfection. But humans? We build things that shouldn't work but somehow do anyway. We jury-rig solutions that make engineers from other species cry. She pulled up a comparison chart showing human technology versus Keeper equivalents. Where the alien systems were elegant curves of efficiency, human designs looked like abstract art created by a caffeinated octopus. I'm proposing we build a fleet of ships powered by the most chaotic, inefficient, downright messy fusion reactors we can design. Then we wire them together with our clunkiest computers, running the most unpredictable software we can write. When the Void tries to consume all that energy, it'll be like trying to drink from a fire hose full of static electricity. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Engineer Park was the first to speak. It's insane, she said slowly. Completely, utterly insane. Which is exactly why it might work, added Dr. Yoon, studying Han's calculations. The Keepers were logical, predictable. They built weapons designed to function perfectly. But human engineering is chaos theory made manifest. Admiral Torres looked skeptical. You're betting the survival of our species on the idea that our technology is so bad it'll give a cosmic predator heartburn. Han grinned, pulling up footage of human spacecraft in action. Ships held together with improvised repairs, systems that ran on outdated software, reactors that technically shouldn't be stable but somehow kept working anyway. Admiral, have you ever seen how our maintenance crews fix a fusion reactor? They use hammers, actual hammers, on equipment worth more than most planets. She gestured to the display showing a mechanic literally hitting a quantum computer with a wrench until it started working again. We're the only species in the galaxy that fixes advanced technology by hitting it really hard and hoping for the best. Despite everything, several people in the room started laughing. The Void has consumed civilizations that built perfect machines, Han continued. But it's never encountered anything built by humans. We don't make perfect machines. We make machines that work despite having no right to exist. Captain Cho stood up, his expression thoughtful. How long would you need to build this chaotic fleet of yours? 6 months if we push every shipyard to maximum capacity, Han replied. We strip every ship we have, rebuild them with the most gloriously inefficient systems we can design, and pray that human stubbornness is enough to give a cosmic horror Cosmic indigestion. The room buzzed with discussion as engineers and military personnel began examining Han's plans in detail. It was crazy, impossible, and completely against every principle of good engineering. It was also the most human solution anyone could imagine. "Well," said Admiral Torres finally, "I've heard worse plans. At least this one has the advantage of being so ridiculous that the Void probably won't see it coming." And so began humanity's most ambitious project, building a fleet designed to be as beautifully, chaotically, stubbornly human as possible. The alarm klaxons screamed across the bridge of the flagship Defiance as Captain Song watched the impossible sight filling their view screen. The Void wasn't just approaching, it was already here, a writhing mass of absolute darkness that seemed to devour the very concept of light itself. Stars vanished as it passed, not exploded or consumed, but simply erased as if they had never existed. "All ships report ready, Captain," Communications Officer Lee announced, her voice steady despite the terror in her eyes. "The Chaos Fleet is in position." Song looked out at humanity's last hope. 200 ships that looked like they'd been assembled by enthusiastic children with unlimited access to spare parts. Each vessel was a masterpiece of intentional inefficiency, bristling with mismatched weapons, jury-rigged power systems, and computers running software that technically shouldn't work but somehow did anyway. "Range to target?" Song asked. 50,000 kilometers in closing, replied Navigator Park. "At current speed, contact in 7 minutes." The Void filled more of their view with each passing second. It wasn't just empty space, it was aggressive. Nothingness that seemed to reach out with invisible tendrils, testing the boundaries of reality itself. Several crew members had to look away as their minds struggled to process something that hurt to perceive. "Captain," Engineer Han's voice crackled over the comm from the engine room, "all Chaos reactors are running at optimal instability. The fusion cores are fluctuating exactly like we planned. Our energy signatures are all over the place." Song smiled grimly. "Perfect. Remember everyone, we're not trying to be heroes today. We're trying to be the most annoying meal this thing has ever encountered." The first wave of the attack began exactly as planned. Human ships opened fire with weapons that should have been decommissioned decades ago, plasma cannons held together. With hope and determination, missile systems that used targeting computers older than some of the pilots, and energy beams that flickered unpredictably because nobody had bothered to fix the power regulators. For a moment it seemed to work. The chaotic energy pattern struck the Void's leading edge, and something like confusion rippled through its substance. The advancing darkness wavered, as if trying to process input that made no sense. Then the Void adapted. "All weapons ineffective," shouted Tactical Officer Cho as their attacks were simply absorbed. "It's learning our patterns." The darkness surged forward with renewed hunger, and the first human ships began to disappear. Not destroyed in explosions of fire and metal, but simply gone, as if they had been deleted from existence. The courage. Vanished first, then the stubborn, then the never give up, each erasure accompanied by a sound like reality tearing. "Fall back to secondary positions," Song ordered. But even as he spoke, he knew it was hopeless. The Void was adapting faster. Then they could change tactics. Within minutes, half the Chaos fleet had been consumed. That's when Pilot Yoon did something that changed everything. Flying the battered transport ship Lucky Break, Yoon watched his squadron mates disappear one by one. His ship wasn't even supposed to be in combat. It was a cargo hauler pressed into service because they needed every vessel they could get. The reactor was held together with improvised repairs, the weapons were salvaged from 3 different ships, and the navigation computer had been giving wrong directions for 2 years. By every logical measure, Yoon should have retreated. The plan was failing, the weapons were useless, and the Void was clearly unstoppable. Instead, Yoon did the most human thing possible. He got angry. "This is Lucky Break to all ships," he announced over the general comm channel. "I'm tired of running from this thing. My great-grandfather didn't survive the colony wars just so I could watch some cosmic bully erase my home." Without waiting for orders, Yoon pushed his ship's reactor past every safety limit. The fusion core began fluctuating wildly, throwing off energy signatures that made nearby ships' sensors scream warnings. Then he did something even more reckless. He began improvising. "Computer, play my music collection through the main engines," he commanded. "That request makes no logical sense," the AI replied. "Just do it." The Lucky Break's engines began pulsing, in rhythm to ancient human music, rock songs, folk ballads, even some classical pieces that Yoon's grandmother had loved. The ship's energy output became a chaotic symphony of sound and power that defied every principle of engineering. Other pilots, seeing Yoon's example, began following suit. Soon, the remaining Chaos fleet was broadcasting everything from lullabies to heavy metal through their weapon systems. Ships started performing impossible maneuvers, not because they were tactically sound, but because the pilots felt like dancing. The effect on the void was immediate and dramatic. The advancing darkness suddenly stopped, its substance rippling with what could only be described as confusion. For the first time in its existence, the void was encountering prey that not only refused to behave logically, but actively embraced chaos as a weapon. "Captain!" shouted Navigator Park, staring at her readings in amazement. "The void's energy!" "Patterns are fluctuating. It's like it doesn't know how to process what we're doing." Song watched in fascination as human ships began attacking in ways that made no tactical sense. Some pilots were flying backwards while shooting, others were spinning their ships like tops while broadcasting cooking shows through their targeting systems. The Definitely Not Broken was firing its weapons in rhythm to a love song while performing barrel rolls that should have torn the ship apart. It was complete chaos. It was absolutely insane. It was perfectly human, and it was working. The void's advance stopped completely as it struggled to consume energy that kept changing forms faster than it could adapt. Human unpredictability was creating a resonance effect. The more chaotic and illogical the fleet became, the more the void's own energy patterns destabilized. "All ships embrace the madness," Song ordered, grinning as he watched the cosmic predator writhe in apparent distress. "Be as human as you possibly can." What followed was the most gloriously ridiculous space battle in galactic history. Ships attacked while playing musical instruments, pilots improvised dance moves while flying, and engineers began singing work songs to their reactors. The chaos reached a crescendo when pilot Yoon, still blasting music through his engines, shouted, "Over the calm, hey, big dark scary thing, you want some chaos? Here's what humans call a really bad day." The Lucky Break dove straight into the void's core, its reactor overloading in patterns that spelled out curse words in 17 different languages. The explosion that followed wasn't just physical, it was a detonation of pure human stubbornness that rippled through dimensions the void had never encountered before. For the first time in millions of years, the cosmic predator encountered something it couldn't consume: the beautiful, chaotic, completely impossible determination of humanity to never ever give up. The explosion from Pilot Yoon's heroic sacrifice rippled through space like a stone dropped in a cosmic pond, but instead of destroying the void, something impossible happened. The chaotic energy from his ship's reactor began spreading through the dark entity like a virus, causing it to convulse and writhe in ways that defied physics. Commander Jang watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as readings flooded in from across the fleet. What they were seeing shouldn't be possible. The void's own energy was turning against itself, creating cascade failures throughout its massive form. "Commander!" shouted Science Officer Min, her voice cracking with excitement. "The resonance effect is expanding. Yoon's sacrifice created some kind of feedback loop. The void is trying to process the chaos, but every time it adapts, our unpredictability creates new variables." Through the view screen, they could see the darkness beginning to tear itself apart. Sections of the void flickered like a broken hologram, revealing glimpses of what lay beneath: stars that had been consumed, planets that had been erased, entire civilizations that had been deleted from existence. "All ships maintain chaotic patterns," Jang ordered. "Don't let it stabilize." The remaining human fleet responded with renewed vigor. Ships began broadcasting everything from children's bedtime stories to cooking instructions through their weapon systems. The transport, probably fine, started playing classical music while firing missiles in waltz rhythm. Even the damaged vessels joined in, their failing systems creating beautifully imperfect harmonies of destruction. But then Engineer Bay made a discovery that changed everything. "Commander?" she called from her station, studying energy readings that made no sense. "I'm detecting something incredible. The consumed matter isn't gone. It's still there, stored somehow within the void structure. And our chaos field is destabilizing the containment." Yang felt his heart skip a beat. "Are you saying we could bring back what it destroyed?" "Theoretically, yes. But we'd need to create a massive resonance cascade, something that would turn the void's entire energy matrix inside out." Bay's fingers flew across her controls, running calculations that would have fried conventional computers. It would require every ship to synchronize their chaos, which sounds like a contradiction, but humans specialize in contradictions, Zhang finished with a grin. "What do you need?" "Every reactor in the fleet would have to overload simultaneously, but in a pattern that's completely random yet somehow coordinated. It's impossible by any logical standard." "Good thing we're not logical," Zhang replied. "All ships, this is Commander Zhang. We're going to attempt something that's never been tried before. We're going to save everyone the void ever consumed, including civilizations that died millions of years ago." The comm channels erupted with responses from across the fleet, voices in dozens of languages, all saying the same thing in their own way. "Let's do it." What followed was the most beautifully orchestrated chaos in galactic history. Every human ship began overloading their reactors, but instead of following a preset pattern, each pilot was told to just wing it. The resulting energy cascade was completely unpredictable, yet somehow perfectly synchronized. A harmony of chaos that only humans could create. The effect on the void was immediate and spectacular. The dark entity began to unravel like a cosmic sweater with a pulled thread. As its structure collapsed, something miraculous happened. Everything it had ever consumed began to reappear. First came the stars, blazing back to life as if they had never been extinguished. Then planets materialized, their surfaces scarred but intact. Space stations flickered back into existence, their alien crews still at their posts, confused but alive. "Impossible," whispered Captain Song from his command ship. "We're bringing back entire solar systems." But the most amazing sight was yet to come. As the void's core finally destabilized completely, massive alien vessels began materializing throughout the sector. Ships unlike anything humans had ever seen, elegant crystalline structures that sang with harmonious energy, mechanical constructs the size of moons, vessels made of living metal that pulsed with organic rhythms. The Keeper fleet had returned. "This is Keeper Vessel Eternal Wisdom to unknown ships," came a transmission in perfect English, though the voice carried harmonics that suggested something far from human. "We have been absent for some time. Did you just reverse our extinction?" "Commander." Zhang opened a channel to all frequencies. "This is the human chaos fleet. We got your message and decided to do something about it." The silence that followed was broken by what could only be described as cosmic laughter, not just from the Keepers, but from dozens of other alien species whose ships were materializing throughout the sector. Civilizations that had been extinct for millions of years were suddenly alive again, their crews trying to process what had happened. "Humans," came another transmission, this one from a vessel that looked like a living flower made of starlight. "We are the ethereal collective. Our consciousness was consumed 3 million years ago. How did you accomplish what we could not?" "We got stubborn," Zhang replied simply. Over the next few hours, as more and more alien civilizations reappeared, a pattern emerged. Every species that contacted the human fleet expressed the same amazement, not at humanity's technology or firepower, but at their refusal to accept defeat. The Keeper's lead ship, a structure so advanced it hurt to look at, directly positioned itself alongside the battered human flagship. "We have studied your approach to the void crisis," the Keeper commander transmitted. "Every civilization we have encountered responded to the threat with logic, careful planning, and advanced technology. You responded with chaos and music and cooking shows," added Pilot Lee from the Definitely Maybe. "Don't forget the cooking shows." "Yes," the Keeper continued, and there was something like wonder in their harmonic voice. "In our 50 million years of existence, we never considered that the solution to ultimate order might be ultimate chaos, that the answer to a predator that consumed perfection might be beautiful imperfection. As the cosmic dust settled, humanity found itself surrounded by grateful alien civilizations whose technologies could solve every problem Earth had ever faced. But the aliens seemed more interested in learning from humans than sharing their advanced knowledge. "We can show you how to travel between galaxies," offered the ethereal collective. "We can teach you to manipulate matter at the quantum level," added a machine intelligence from the binary collective. "But first," said the Keeper Commander, "we would like to learn how you make things work by hitting them with hammers. This technique appears to have applications we never considered." Commander Zhang looked out at the restored galaxy, at millions of stars that were shining again, because a bunch of humans had refused to give up. Space was filled with ships from civilizations spanning millions of years of galactic history, all united by humanity's stubborn refusal to accept the impossible. "Well," he said into the comm system, addressing the greatest gathering of intelligent species in galactic history, "welcome back to the universe. Fair warning, it's about to get a lot more chaotic." The response was immediate. Laughter in 1,000 different forms, from species across time and space, all celebrating the beautiful chaos of human determination. Somewhere in space, Engineer Han was probably hitting a quantum computer with a wrench, making it work better than it ever had before. The galaxy was in good hands. The end